It's October 2nd, 2025, and so I wanted to make a journal entry today about a very special project and a very special subject, which I would be obliged to categorize it as adult content. But even though I consider it to be adult content in one aspect, in one way of putting it, in another way of putting it, in another aspect, it should also be taught to people as early as possible. And so, it's thinking like this big bird bee. First I was thinking about Big Bird comes from Sesame Street. And I was just thinking about, being, because I was thinking about the birds and the bees. And there's a song that I listened to when I was a kid, growing up. It was a popular song when I was young, and my stepbrothers would always sing it. This was like when Elvis Presley was popular. And I had one brother in particular. He was a little stepbrother on my one of the children of the woman that my father married and lived with. But anyway, the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the stars up above and a thing called love. The birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. Okay. Well, there's a whole song called "The Birds and the Bees." I think. I mean, it was on the radio. The birds and the bees. And I was real young, and I was pretty young. I mean, I wasn't like 2 or anything. I mean, it might have come out when I was 2, but I mean, I listened to it when I was older. I mean, at least like 7 or 8. Or something like that. But I think, or it could have been a little bit older, I don't know. But I'm sure it came out, probably came out in my mom's time or something. But anyway, I think children, should be taught about the birds and the bees, and what that means about, love and sex, because and children who have dogs, at least, and I mean sometimes, like, well, maybe not so much anymore and everything, but I mean my dogs have, I've seen them have sex before, lock up, and that's how I got Goldie and Rosie, from my daughter Amber's dog and my dog Charlie. Instant attraction, and bam, and they were locked up. And so when you understand that and you see that animal kingdom at work, okay, well then you understand how things go. And that's called the birds. That's a lesson of the birds and the bees, and that's what they call it, the birds and the bees. And that has to do with how people make their babies and like that. Oh, but in our society, you're supposed to be in love before you start making babies. Okay, in conjunction with that, see, okay, so that would be considered, in my opinion, like adult content, but also like child content, because children, I think, my personal belief, you, my grandchildren, if you don't already know about this kind of thing, you should have learned about it already by now, by the time you're a little growing up, because that's how we live, and you need to know both how to live and how to die. You need to know the process of creation and the process of dying and letting go. You need to know what it is to work, and you need to know what it is to rest. See? And basically, we're on and then we're off. But, you got to be on fully because you're going to be off fully. You better be on while you got the opportunity. Okay, so that's that note, I'm looking over here because I don't know what I'm seeing over there. I don't know actually what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm looking at. There's an arrow pointing to I don't actually know what that is. For a minute, I thought, well, that's not what I'm looking at anyway. What I was looking at is this what's on my TV right there. That's from Midas Touch because there's a girl on here. I think he just said when I tried to cue it up that it was. I think he said Hope Wells. I think he said her name was Hope Wells, but I don't know. She looks. I came out. I was getting my dog stuff ready, cleaning up and everything, and tried to give Sport, some food, Sport just a little bit. This thing right here. Oops, this thing right here, because this is critical nutrition by Purina. Critical nutrition. I got it from the vet. And he runs away from me because the last few times, I pushed the food in his mouth and tried to initiate a little bit of appetite, if I figured if I put it in his mouth, and he got a little bit of food, But now when he sees that I have food, I just put it on my finger and he run away from me. And that's making me really, really sad, And kind of angry because, I took him to the vet and they x-rayed him on the second time I brought him in. I had him x-ray him and they said he got shot with a pellet gun. They showed me where the pellet was, and I don't exactly know when he got shot because I never seen the hole the pellet went in, the hole that the pellet made. But I do know that this happened, that he got sick all of a sudden. And so he got afraid. He became afraid of the weather all of a sudden. Like, I don't know, maybe when he got shot it was raining or something. I mean, when it starts raining, especially if it thunders, he started getting terrified. And he never been in my care, and he's been in my care for a long time now. Never been subject to any kind of bad weather where he had to stay outside in bad weather. And I don't remember him being like that. He's been with me a long time. He was Steve Marshall, his dad's dog. Before that, he was, belonged to the grandson. But then the grandfather took care of him, and renamed him from Rusty to Sport because he couldn't remember Rusty. That was Steve Marshall's dad. And I helped him out with his dad's toilet one time. A lot came after that. Actually, it changed my life. Anyway, yeah, a lot of thoughts right there, but you know, it's just so sad because and life is sad sometimes, but that's why the birds and the bees are the beginning and dying is in the end. And no, I was thinking about the birds and the bees and everything because of my sign. See, because I made okay, all American dildo. Because the reason I'm saying that is because there's a phrase that even my mom would use only on very, very few occasions, but to express her utter despising feeling toward some adversity or adversary up your ass. She would never say the other word, F-U-C-K. She would not say that word. But I did hear her on a couple of occasions make the statement. I don't know exactly the context. But she didn't really cuss, in my recollection. But there were occasions when she would choose to express herself with the most severe vocabulary, which, and I only remember like one or two times. Really kind of, and I'm thinking hard, but I do know up your ass. So so what I'm going to do, and what that means is, I have to actually look it up in the dictionary of what that expression there is supposed to mean. Like, I know what it means personally and internally, and this is the regard and the whole kind of thinking, because it's an insult. See, it's like being molested, kind of like. No, it is. It has a connotation of like being molested. Okay. And everything else. But so a dildo is the male sexual organ, the penis. Okay? Well, if you know from the animal kingdom, it gets erect and hard when you have sexual contact, which makes babies. But the foul thing is like taking it up the butt. Okay, then that is a totally insulting kind of different kind of thing, which is unnatural and insulting. Okay, unless if you're gay. I mean, it's hard for me to always imagine that, but they say it happens a lot in prison. Okay, now I'm telling you, this is like adult content, all right. But I don't think once I define this, because I'm going to put it on my sign. So I am obliged to actually, mention, first of all, the birds and the bees, and what a dildo actually means. And a dildo is kind of like the word dodo too. Dildo and dodo. And I think dildo can also even mean like a dodo. Like, it could call somebody a dildo. Okay, so a dildo is a fake, for one thing, obviously, because a dildo is fake penis. Oh, look, so anyway, I just had to say that because all American, and see, the reason I made it like a woman, like a woman, all American dildo, is because that's what Trump did recently. It come out that he made a card for Jeffrey Epstein, and he made it in the outline of a woman, and then he wrote in there like that, just like I did. The breasts, the butt cheeks, the feet, the head, rump it. It's a sexual act, rump it. You know, I'm using it as that way, okay? Because, you know, your rump, you know, your hiney, your butt. Okay, well, so I'm going to have, like, you know, praying to die. I'm going to have the praying to die dildo. Because when that's taking it up the butt, you know, it's the most insulting kind of thing. All right? I'm going to have the advent of the rump. That'll be all the dildos. I already thought of a lot of dildos. The polishing arguments dildo. The polishing arguments with lies. Because I've seen them on TV, like Mike Johnson. He's lying and lying and lying, and they're polishing their lie they're polishing their argument. You know, they like make up this argument. You know why they can't agree with the Democrats on something so they can fund the government, and they got, you know, all the power and everything, and Democrats only have like one holdout. They got only one thing that they can do to force the issue. So they're saying we want the Obama tax credits not to expire, so people don't lose their insurance for medical stuff, and that's all they want. But the Republicans are saying like, they want to fund medical treatment and sex changes for illegal immigrants. Actually, at first they were talking about sex changes for illegal immigrants in Peru. Then that was too far out, so then they just changed it to medical stuff for immigrants, and that's even against the law. They don't do medical benefits for immigrants. It's just bullshit. Okay, so. But he's polishing his argument with lies, making up all kinds of lies. Okay? And in that way, America takes it up the butt. They get insulted. They get they get molested. Insulted and molested is basically what that means when you say up the ass. That's basically insulted and molested. All right? And so, you know, when you lie to the American people, for one thing, you insult their intelligence, and you molest them. Like, you molest them because, you know, you're taking all their money and giving it to the rich people and stuff like that. I mean, all these cuts and everything, defunding Big Bird, and I was thinking about Big Bird, public TV, Sesame Street, Big Bird. Now he's defunding all that. He's taking away all the people that are on Medicare, defunding that, cutting out the Obama tax credits, make it a little cheaper so they put government pitches in something for the medical stuff that people need, you know. And hospitals, I mean, some people go to the hospital, to the emergency room and stuff like that, and never even, you know, pay. And so, you know, hospitals get some kind of help. But look, everybody pays taxes on every piece of food that they eat, and they got to pay taxes on everything that the government can put taxation on. And now the government's putting taxation on everything that happens, like in the imports and exports, you know, from other countries. We got to pay more tariffs. You know, now we've got to pay more money for everything because the government tax. Okay? And they try to say, like, for example, the consumers don't pay it. Well, the price always goes down to the consumer. Okay? The people that own everything, you know, they're going to charge the consumer more. It's not like they're going to eat it. It's not like they're going to take it up the ass. No. The working class, me and you. At least that's the way I'm looking at it now. Now, nobody in my family ever hit the lottery. We're going to be the ones taking it up the butt, up the ass. All right, so there's a lot of kind of dildos, and what a dildo represents is like, you know, insertion of hard thing up your ass. Okay? Which is insulting and derogatory and abusive, or whatever the word I was using. Molestation, abuse. Okay, well, one guy, this guy called Tom Holmes, he's the head of the ICE, which is the newly formed police that deal with immigrants, and they're expanding from immigrants to actual regular citizens. They're just throwing anybody in jail that stands in their way, you know. And this is a bully. This is bullish kind of. This is what you call martial law, and Trump is instituting this. And it just so happens that Trump, without the T, is rump. Okay? So, rump is the same as your butt or your ass, you know? And Trump is a rump. He's an ass. You know? So I just play on the word, you know, rump. It's your ass. And so if I say rump is the biggest, what you might say, ass hucker, with an H, hucker, okay? So you don't say that actual real one, you know, with an F. And, like I say, you know, my mom, you know, she kind of actually voted Republican, I guess, you know, because all the Christians were Republican and stuff, but I always saw through that bullshit, and she just, you know, jumped on the bandwagon of the people that she believed, and the people that she believed ended up being people like, you know, Jimmy Swaggart. He put on a good show, and he was a good musician and singer and, you know, a good speaker, you know, but I mean, like so many other ones, I mean, the power and stuff went to his head. And then he had personal problems. And when he got exposed, people didn't tolerate it. So I hope Trump gets exposed like Jimmy Swaggart got exposed for his sin. And then, you know, everything's lost. I mean, not everything, you know. I give credit where credit's due. But the thing is, you know, Trump is bringing the country down, and by sticking it up their ass. And this big beautiful bill, that's another dildo, okay? Look, I got a bunch of them. I wrote them down. Making up complete bullshit dildo. Fox and Friends with Newsmax dildo. Tom Holmes dildo. Hegseth, Vance, and Rump. Hegseth is the Secretary of War, and he's like the top guy, you know, for the war. Well, he used to be called the Defense Department, but he's calling it the War Department. And then Vance is that's the last name of the Vice President. And then of course, you know, President Trump, you know, I'm just referring to as Rump. So you get all three of those together for a special price. Like polishing arguments, polishing arguments with lies dildo. That one I have written down for $500. The illegal alien dildo. That one I'm gonna write down. Well, I'll put on here $75. I'm gonna have the brain to die dildo for $7,500. And then I don't know. I wrote down here the advent of rump for one great price, which would be negotiable. All included, all the dildos included, all the things that can be pushed right up your butt with a dildo. included. All that insult included, and for one great price. Your soul and your I can't read my own writing, but I wrote down one great price, everything included, one great price, which would be negotiable, but basically your soul and your ass. Okay, your soul and your ass. Better make that better so I can read it. Hey, look. Sometimes I can't read my own writing good. Ass. Alright, I wrote it bigger. Well, we pray to die, smallest, and the we prayed to die dildo. That one is our smallest and most depreciated dildo, because only living is hard. Dildo's gotta get hard to be a dildo. Whatever. And only living is hard. Rump on. Take it up your ass. Yours truly, Donald Rump. Okay. Okay. These are just my notes. By this time next year, we'll have the Epstein dildo ready for insertion. Whatever. Anyway, so that's what I'm planning on for my sign. And, my next door neighbor, they're all American Tree Service. I might have to write her a letter. And I talked to her about her trees. I want to make sure in this hurricane season, man, I hope it's not a bad one. There are no trees fall on my garage or on my house roof here. Because Donald Trump defunded FEMA. That's the federal relief in emergency tragedies. And, it would be a total loss for me. Because I don't have insurance. Can't afford that. But, if I can prevent it in any way possible, that's why another tree company I needed to go ahead and do that. So, but just being saying that, I'm going to write on my thing, all American dildos, with no reference, toward All American Tree Service, which is next door to me. But okay, so let me just play this real quick, because what this girl does is she really says it like it is, and she says exactly what has bothered me for a long time. And it's like, making just a alternate reality. Like I hear them talking like on talking to reporters and stuff, and they're complete like just lying and making alternate reality. It was really strange stuff, but this is anyway her, and I really liked it, so here it is. Okay.
It never fails to amaze me the goalposts these people move in order to justify complete and utter stupidity and incompetence. There are still people in my comments saying, you need 60 votes in the Senate, and they only have 52. I don't even think it's worth it anymore to argue with people that don't know how anything works, because that is called governing. That is called governing. You cannot expect people to vote on an extremely harmful bill and not have them or their constituents get anything out of it. You compromise, you negotiate, you govern. You govern. That is called governing. That is their job. At the end of the day, they hold all three branches of government, and it is on them if the government shuts down. They need to compromise. I'm like, it's actually astonishing, and I don't know why it's surprising at this point. But yeah, no, you don't get to have that argument with me because it's invalid. Do your fucking job.
Well, there you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers together, and thank you so much.
Okay, so the only alternative to that is taking it up the ass. That's slang, but injury and insult and molestation. That's what that means. Taking it up the ass. I don't know what I'm going to actually call this one right now, but, you know, between, you know, watching sport, you know, and everything's going on, you know, I have to put this out there so I can relieve myself of the feelings of responsibility, because I have to say this, and that's why I have to make a sign, and that's my journal entry for today. Because what I'm dealing with, you know, sport dying and America taking it up the ass. All right, bye.